Welcome to Monday Night Live, the weekly training that guides professionals to financial prosperity. Join our community and let's start building your wealth.
Awesome. Cool. Well, especially since I have a lot of fellow agents on the call, what I'll do is I'll just tell you kind of my journey and what it's been like, and then we can dive into it deeper. I started in real estate in 2015, getting licensed in North Carolina, and I started specializing with residential investors and investment properties. Thank you, Gary. Partially due to your training back then, it definitely like opened my third eye, and I was like, okay, I need to focus on this. And how it started off actually is my first listing. It had structural damage and the HVAC stopped working 2 days before we went live. And I said, but why though? I just want to sell $1 million properties, luxury properties. Like, what's going on? I ended up getting 40 investors in my database off of that one property. And then I took that investor database and I went and got more investment properties using it. And I said, hey, don't call the guys on the postcards, call me instead, and I'll get them all to compete for you off market. And so I created this brand where investment properties started coming to me. I did residential sales from 2015 all the way to 2018 and really to 2019. In 2018, I actually started recruiting for my company, and I also started a cannabis company, so in the hemp space. Hemp became federally legal. I was preparing for that since 2016. 2018, actually, the different states were able to do pilot programs and open up these pilot programs. And so I was one of the first in the state of North Carolina to get a processor's license for that company. We moved forward with retail, started off with delivery service. We grew that company. I expanded it to Central Florida to my mom, who is actually the owner of the second location. In 2020, we ended up purchasing a $1.725 million industrial building with an SBA loan. The only cannabis company that I know of that has ever gotten an SBA loan. It took 4 banks before one finally said yes. So we fought for that. So I expanded and grew that company, stepped out of that company in 2023 and stepped into full-time sales again, honestly, where I belong and where I'm happy. So like, I love growing businesses, but like sales is just a really great anchor kind of income. It's my vessel. It's my vessel that I choose. So got back into the commercial sales and quickly picked up institutional investor for large apartment complexes. So I've been doing commercial sales now. I have car washes under contract. I have a dog boarding facility under contract, and I am negotiating this week an offer for my 137 unit apartment complex in North Charleston. So very grateful. Skipped over a couple things from 2018 to 2019. Recruiting a lot while building out that vertically integrated company. By 2020, I was number 3 in the world for Keller Williams for recruiting. And by 2021, I was number 9 in the world. So I had a worldwide ranking for recruiting. I've recruited over 450 people into the company. And so I found I was really good at talent acquisition, and then which is great for building teams also. And then from July 2023 to July 2024, I actually took on a team leader position. So I saw a failing office in my area. I stepped in, I turned it around, helped get it back to profitability, and then stepped out and was like, some other corporate person come do this now. Let me get back to sales. So I'm super grateful now to kind of be in the lane I feel like I belong in. On the investing front, I've done everything from tax foreclosures. I've wholesaled. I currently am under contract on a retail property, seller financing, no money down. We'll be closing on that next week. That's going to be great. And I'm a big advocate for investing in commercial and buying businesses. So I'll also be taking over a laundromat within that retail acquisition. So super excited for that. I know that was a whole lot, a whole mouthful, but just to give you kind of like a timeline of what my journey has kind of looked like.
What's really amazing is you're only 21 years old. I
Yeah,
mean, you've
right.
done all.
That's right. I'm actually proudly 33 years young.
There you
I
go.
believe in just aging gracefully and embracing it. Like I will always believe in that. So for me, like I understand fully how young I am. And I think that it worked against me. When I was 23, I got into real estate. And so like
Mhm.
being so young getting in, it was almost like it worked against me. Like age discrimination was constant. When I turned about
Mhm.
27, the tables turned and all of a sudden everybody wanted to help me because I was so young. And now, especially being in the commercial real estate space, I am the baby in the room all the time. And it's humbling.
Mhm.
It's so humbling. And it's like, wow, this is really special. Part of it is just having a really big vision. So I truly believe that part of the reason that God put me here is to help broker, because there's a lot of people currently working on this, and coordinate ending the sex trafficking of children in my lifetime. And that's a really big goal to shoot for. And so what it requires is that at a young age that I do a lot, and get a lot out. So I kind of in my 20s especially kind of like threw darts at everything, like just see what sticks. Now I've gotten a lot more focused. Now I understand like where my lane is. I've definitely honed it in. I say no to opportunities now, which is crazy. But
Yeah.
they're like buses, and another one will be by in 15 minutes. So I don't worry about it anymore. So now I just kind of focus the commercial sales, especially helping businesses buy commercial real estate like I did. That is
Mhm.
so special to be able to have that kind of impact on small businesses. And then what I do in the multifamily space, most of my investors in that space are partnering with nonprofits, and they're helping a variety of different types of people. They're helping homeless veterans get off the streets. They're helping domestic violence survivors, battered women and children. So, like, I work with a lot of people in the multifamily space that are doing major things for their communities, a major impact. And I think that that kind of helps me grow much better towards my big why. So it's part of why I chose that path in particular.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, there definitely is a lot there to unpack. But I want to go back to the basic mixture of what you're doing on the basic, at the fundamental level. So you have your investments, you got your investing business going on, and you have your real estate sales business going on, and you have philanthropy too, with helping to end um, you know, child slavery and just that whole world. It's amazing that there's not more coverage of that on mainstream media. And I'm not going to get off on that track tonight, but it's very real, guys. It's very real, and I know people who've been involved. And there's another person I want to introduce you to, Erica. I'm going to write this down. He was applying to be on a team a couple years ago. He's height disadvantaged, and he wanted to be in the military in the worst way, and they kept telling him no. And he finally found a congressman from his district to vouch for him. And they finally let him in the Air Force. So
Right.
but his that's your passion is his passion, and he just got married. He's a great person. So I'll
Please.
make
Yeah.
sure.
That's what I found is like when I first found this in 2016, it was in a
Yep.
self-development program. And I was like, this is what God put me here for. And typically
Mhm.
it's whatever trauma you've had, and whatever's helped make you grateful in life or whatever it is, it's typically something around that. And I discovered it in 2016, and I've just like had my eye on the prize ever since then. And I've been amazed at the people that God has put in my life ever since I've had clarity on what I want and what he wants for me. So like
Yep.
for instance, there was like this investor event I saw on Instagram randomly out in Vegas, and I was like, sign me up, $79, sure. And I flew out there like by myself, and I was like, okay. And I'm in the room, and one of the main investors who's making over 100 million a year doing real estate investing was up on stage. He's like, we've talked a lot about making money. Let's talk about making money matter. And he was talking about his orphanages that he has at the border. So it hit me over the years like it's a brokering of the connections of all the people that are already working
Mhm.
in this, not just like Erica's got to go make $500 million a year. Although I definitely am working towards that goal, but I at the same time I've realized like this is so much more doable than I thought when I started out, and my
Yeah.
personal growth has literally just been a collaboration of being on the mission that I think that God put me here for.
Yeah. It's amazing when you get intentional about something. You know, I had a minister tell me this one time. I was actually in crisis mode, and I knew him. I did go to his church, but he was a long distance runner. I mean, 50-mile, 100-mile marathons. And he let my daughter do a fundraiser at his church. It was right down the street. So I ran. I didn't run like him, but I ran a couple miles and I was happy. But he said, God's going to send the right person at the right time to cross your path and say the right thing. And it didn't just happen once; it kept happening over and over and over again. But I want to go back to the combination of being in real estate brokerage, having a sales business, and being in real estate investing. And it's been my business mission to teach that to as many people as I possibly can, because the combination is absolutely, you know, profitable. I mean, it just one feeds the other, and it's hard to put in the words. But for example, when you're in a brokerage, you're like you just mentioned, you talked about networking. You're constantly meeting people. You're a top recruiter. You probably met thousands to bring in those 400 plus. You met tens of thousands. So when you can leverage that network, you realize that has just as much value, as more value actually than money. Like to me, it's all about the relationship. But what I
Yeah.
want you to ask, if I could ask you to do, is kind of describe for you that relationship between real estate sales and real estate investing. And you can, like for me, it was all about the people, because I met investors who eventually became agents and worked for me. And I met agents who I was able to teach how to be investors. But for you, how did that kind of, and I know it was organic, how did that sort of unravel? If you want to kind of take us down that journey a little bit, because I want everybody to take
Yeah.
notes on this part, guys. you know?
Absolutely. So, and it stemmed honestly from when I took your class. One of the things you said was that a lot of your investors actually end up getting licensed. And so I think when
Mhm.
you're a licensed real estate agent, you almost tend to exclude yourself from investment opportunities because you think it's too much liability. Instead of like being in the room with enough people that already do it to understand that you do it the right way and there's nothing to worry about. And in fact, you're on the front line of opportunities, if anything. And so I think that really hit me hard, where I was like, okay, well, if most of my investors have ended up getting their real estate license, lo and behold, also. So when I started with it, I definitely was more focused on just getting that income going from the sales. And I believe in like you have to have a cash flowing business and or income in order to be able to invest. And I will say every time I've tried to press the fast forward button and go jump into an investment project without making sure that my sales income could support it, I've always had to go backwards. So I think it's really important that you have your vehicle, your vessel, and if your vessel is real estate sales, it has to remain your vessel for you to get into real estate investing. And real estate investing is not like a get rich quick scheme. You are not going to retire overnight. You're not even going to retire potentially off 5 properties, 5 to 10 properties,
Mhm.
depending on what type of property. So you have to keep in mind, like you have to keep that vessel going no matter what in order to sustain that investment side of your business. That's something that I have messed up a lot, and I've had to go back and be like, okay, just kidding. Let me get this right. So I think starting out, especially what it took for me is I'm pretty hard-headed and stubborn. It took me losing several opportunities before I
Mhm.
realized, like, whoa, I just watched somebody else, or I just watched, for instance, a property that I told one of my investors move on, and they didn't move on it quick enough. And I just watched somebody else make $120,000 because my investor didn't. But then why didn't I? So it started to hit
Mhm.
me when I was trying to get my investors to move on properties, and sometimes they weren't moving quick enough. And to a degree of I'm even helping them do their underwriting. I'm like, here's what you need for all your underwriting. Here's the lender here. So when I was helping to put all this together, and especially what it popped up was a 32 unit new construction property. I had all the pieces of the puzzle that I needed. I had the capital partners. I had everything I needed. It was new
Mhm.
construction and it was up against a financing contingency like deadline. So the partners were very nervous, and one of the partners had actually backed out. So they were in trouble.
Mhm.
They were trying to fire sale this thing off market for, I believe I could have secured it for probably about 7 million. Once
Mhm.
fully, and I mean, new construction fully done, all it needed was stabilization. Once fully stabilized, the buyer that ended up moving on that asset because my buyers didn't and I didn't fast enough, they ended up selling that asset for 12 million after
Mhm.
stabilization. And that one hit me really hard. And after that
Yeah.
one, I was like, you know what? That's the last time that happened. So I will say, like, don't be hard on yourself. I think you're gonna lose out on a certain number of opportunities before like your subconscious says, not this time. I see it. This is it. I'm moving forward. And so also you have to do a lot of underwriting. I underestimated how many properties I actually had to look at in order to find a really
Mhm.
good deal. And what's cool is if you chose real estate sales as your vessel and you're looking at all of the investment inventory that's available, and you're underwriting, you're going, okay, I would or would not move on this. You also know what your investors can move on quickly that's available. So if you pick up an investor on your sales side, you immediately know what's out there, but you also have already underwritten it. You've already pulled taxes and insurance on it. You know your inventory better than anybody on the market. So it's such a syncrasy to just knowing,
Yeah.
doing that underwriting. And the market fluctuates. So like at one point you underwrite 20 properties, you go boom, I find a cash flowing opportunity. If it's a single family property, 500 minimum is what like I think is like a something to aim for. But unfortunately, a lot of people are picking up properties if it's doing 2 to 400 a month in net cash flow on a single family, they'll pick it up. It's still, you have
Yeah.
to pay down in appreciation. But I didn't realize like you have to do a lot of underwriting on no's to even be able to recognize what is a yes. So that was a
Yeah.
huge part of the process for me where I was like, okay, and I always kept saying to myself, you're not the numbers person, get a partner. And I'm like, eventually, you have some bad partnerships and you realize like, wait,
Yep.
why am I not the numbers person again? I seem to know what I'm talking about. So, and also, so just doing the underwriting on as many properties as you can, it's going to build your confidence as well. So you're going to know your inventory, you're going to know the numbers for what your inventory should be. That was huge. And so what
Yeah.
I can give you an example of when that finally kicked in. Um, I am under contract on this retail property, for instance. This was a listing appointment I went on, just a regular listing appointment. It's in a more rural part of South Carolina, but still pretty close to Charlotte. So it's appreciated.
Mhm.
Um, at the listing appointment, I asked him, I said, okay, we went over everything, and I said, would you consider seller financing this? And I asked because it's in a more rural part where I figured we'd get a lot of those offers anyway. And he said, well, yeah, explain it to me. So I explained what seller financing is to him. Um, I get back in my car with my boyfriend who had went to the appointment with me. He's also an agent. We get back in the car and I go, I think that this is ours. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I really feel like this is our property, actually. I think we need to secure this property. This is ours. And the situation was it was a really tragic situation. His father had died, and the property was just basically sitting there. It's got two vacancies out of four units. It's
Mm.
really kind of distressed, and he just doesn't even want to drive by it anymore. It gives him bad memories. So, like, he really
Yeah.
gets, but to see the property revamped and revived, that would be just amazing for him. So, like, it's a win-win. When we met up with him the second time, he said, please tell me y'all are buying it. And I'm like, I don't know how you know. He's like, I prayed on it and I feel like y'all are buying it. And I'm like, I don't know how you know that, but yes, we are. And so we got under contract, seller financing, no money down, 0% interest rate, because what does he have to lose? It's owned outright. And we will do a cash out refinance in 12 months, no money out of pocket. We will make probably about 25,000 on the cash out refinance. More importantly, it will net cash flow about 2,200 a month with the debt in place. So that's an opportunity that I have now for no money out of my pocket. Something else
Yeah.
I will say is I work with a lot of large multifamily investors that are getting their butts kicked right now. I
Yep.
mean, badly. I'm trying to save some of them right now, actually. So
Hmm.
I will say is that you'll see these big projects, development projects, large multifamily buildings, somebody that
Hmm.
owns 1,000 doors. I really encourage that you look at how much net cash flow and how much net profit they're making. Because it doesn't matter how many doors you have, it doesn't matter how many big buildings you own, it doesn't matter the glamour of it. It matters how much net cash flow and how much actual revenue
Yep.
it's producing. And so I'm very grateful because to have figured that out now, I get to be under contract and closing on a property that will produce as much net cash flow as like what some of my syndicator investors have made over the last 3 years of trying to do it on a large multifamily complex. And I get to make more in revenue than they do with all the work they
Yep.
do. So it's something to consider in your investment journey too. And something I did was I underwrite everything. I've underwritten like, what does it look like to entitle land? What does it look like to buy that industrial building and put a tenant in place? What does it look like to buy a portfolio of single family and fix and flip them? So like I underwrite a lot of different stuff to try to figure out what I'm actually going to want to do. Like what is my buy box?
Yeah. What's interesting too is so let's say, guys, let's say Erica's looking at something for herself. It doesn't make sense for her. She has her own formula for cash flow, what she's looking for. And just like a lot of investors, when you're in your earlier part of your career, you're leaning, it's mostly cash flow. It has to cash flow. But there are people later on in life that actually are looking for capital appreciation, right? Just Dwayne's, I don't think Dwayne's on tonight. He's out in the Bay Area, Erica, and so he deals with a lot of high net worth individuals.
Yeah.
And in the Bay Area, it's almost impossible to cash flow if you're going to do the typical 20% down or almost any way you structure that. It's almost impossible. So a lot of people will pay 50% cash or all cash, or they'll repurpose the building. They'll do all kinds of things. Like midterm housing is still pretty good right now. I started preaching that about 3 years ago. I said, look, guys, I'm not knocking Airbnb. I'm not knocking traditional rentals, but right now, traditional rentals, the rents have not kept pace with the valuations of the properties. So you're paying more, but on a percentage basis, you're not cash flowing like you were even 5 years before. So look at the exit strategies like midterm rentals. But here's the big point I was getting at. Just because it doesn't match your formula, it doesn't meet your criteria, doesn't mean it might not meet somebody else's. So guys, always remember this. Whenever you do due diligence on property, unless it's an absolute dog with fleas, put it out to your crowd, because you never know when somebody says, you know what, I'm looking for something exactly like that because I'm going to repurpose it. I'm going to take it from a B minus to a B plus, or I'm going to completely change the structure of it from office to you know uh, renting out rooms, house hacking, but on a bigger building. You just never know. That's why I always put those things out there. And by the way, I'm willing to bet, Erica, because I think you touched on this a while back. You probably had clients that didn't move on a property. Instead of letting it go to somebody else, did you grab a couple of those yourself along the way when your clients didn't, you know?
Now I have, absolutely. It took losing,
Absolutely, yes.
but yes,
And
now I definitely do.
yep, and I've had agents tell me, I've had investors tell me, I don't want to get my license because then I have to disclose that. And I've always asked them, well, so what? Why is that a problem? Well, then they won't want to work with me because they know I'm competing with them. I said, I've never, and I've done thousands and thousands of transactions. I've never once had a client say, Gary, I'm not going to work with you because you're an investor too. I've profoundly far more said, I want to work with you because unlike all those other agents, you actually invest. And that's literally created my entire business model. Everything else has just been icing on the cake. If I get a luxury listing or just somebody wanting to buy or sell their home, I'll take them. I mean, I don't do this anymore, but I would take them on, right? Because they were clients of mine. In fact, I've had investors tell me, some of them, let me give you the background first. In the beginning, investors never used me for their own properties because they said, well, you're the investor guy. I didn't think you dealt with traditional real estate. So I had to really be careful with my branding. And I made sure they understood that because I was so good with investing, I'm probably the best choice to help them buy or sell their own home. And that's when I started getting both. And that's when I started building a big team. I realized I can't do everything. I'm like killing myself, and that helped me because I was able to attract agents who were more comfortable in a residential world, the non-investor world, and attract the agents who were just flat out. They'd always say, I want to be like you. You know what I told America? I
What?
say, don't be like me, be better than me, you know? And I really mean that. That's what teachers do. So in any case, um, all right, there's so much you gave us in that last segment. Um,
And I
but
also have wholesaled. I don't know if you've done the wholesaling. That's another thing that I think a lot of real estate agents think that they shouldn't be doing or can't do.
Mhm.
And I am like a huge advocate for that. Is so inaccurate. Like I think if anything, we should be lobbying to try to fight for wholesaling because there is a need. And you see what's happening in the Carolinas. They're trying to make it where you can't wholesale unless you have a real estate license. which means
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
for like,
spreading all around the country.
yes, and to think through what that means this massive demand of distressed humans in distressed
Mhm.
situations. They're going to lose their homes because there was nobody to wholesale it. They're going
Mhm.
to, lose it to taxes. They're going to lose it to foreclosure. Like really awful things happening that wholesalers help fill that demand. Has there been some predatory practices? Of course there has. And I think that's part of why people with real estate licenses in particular really need to take it serious of like, how can we put best practices in place for how wholesaling should be handled by a licensed individual. When I did my wholesale, it was actually a property that was on my street that was dilapidated. I got the owner information from the neighbor, and she connected me, so it was a warm connection. And that girl, mid transaction, it took me a month to close it because I had to figure out title issues. But mid transaction, she was covering her bills, her mom's bills, and the bills on that property where her father had lived, where he died. And she almost ran out of money and couldn't cover any of the bills anymore. So she almost ended up defaulting on 3 households worth of bills. And like I got to her in time. I gave her all of her options in writing. I said, here's, we put it on market, and something to keep in mind, people in distressed situations, it's not always best to put a home on market. And typically it's not. Typically it's not best for them to have strangers walking through their home as they're in a distressed situation. Typically it's best to sell something like that off market. So I tell them, like, I can put it on market. Here's the price. Here's the strategy
Mhm.
that goes with that. I can try to sell it off market to just my investors. Here's the price and here's the strategy with that. I
Mhm.
also can buy it cash right now, and here's the price for that. And
Yeah,
I don't have an attachment genuinely to any option that they pick because it's really about coming from contribution. And I think as an agent, you have to remind yourself that a lot as you're in the doing the investor world as well, just to make sure that you stay on a straight and narrow. That you've got to come from contribution. You're not directing them to any opinion. It's about what is best for them in their situation. So with the wholesaling, like I gave all 3 options in writing. She said,
yeah,
thank you so much. I know you can get me more money, but I just want to take the quick cash offer. And I said, great, I'm your buyer. So
yeah.
I made $60,000 on that within a month.
Hi, I just want to take a moment to thank you for watching a recording of the Monday Night Live class. Hope you're getting a lot out of it. I'm sure you will. I wanted to let you know that you can come to Monday Night Live whenever you want, but you can also participate more with the team. Why don't you set up a call with me, a one-on-one strategy call? I can go over everything with you, show you everything that we have to offer. For example, did you know that on our team, not only do you get your leads, we actually give you your own account on our lead gen system. So this puts you in control. You're not waiting on somebody to hand you leads. You get to pick the ones you want. Okay? Huge difference. We have 21 of our own proprietary marketing campaigns. They're all copyright protected. We're the only ones that can use them. Okay? The coaching is absolutely one-on-one. We got 3 coaches. We even have a 4th success coach that we have access to. Okay? One of left fewer than 100 in the world. Okay? One-on-one coaching. Right now the big problem is volume. We need more transactions. We need more inventory. I get it. Well, we know how to get it. Our team actually outproduces the national average by more than 2 to 1. So if you're struggling, don't do that anymore. If you're a solo agent, if you're a team, let's just talk. Smart entrepreneurs are always open to discussion. Learn what we have to offer, and then you can make an informed decision about staying where you are or moving on. You got to decide, if you're not where you want to be, you've got to take action to get where you want to be. Let's see how we can help you do that. I look forward to talking to you. Click on the link, set up a call. And by the way, I'll see you on the next Monday Night Live.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's one of our marketing campaigns is to give them options. But also this is so interesting because I know I confuse people on this. When I first started, I did wholesaling. I was on both ends of it. I would buy them and I would sell them. But later on, I made a conscious choice to not personally wholesale for myself. However, I do teach it. I have a whole program just for agents to learn how to wholesale themselves correctly, right? A lot of the gurus, unfortunately, they leave things out, and I'm not going to go into details here because we'll be here all night, but just know this, guys. There absolutely is a right way to do it. And I know Erika knows how to do that because I already know her. And I also teach them how to work with wholesalers because you can make money so many different ways. I mean, if you really look at a wholesale deal and you do it, you find the property for the wholesaler and you find the buyer, and that buyer happens to be a flipper and they flip the house, you can make 4 commissions what I call a marketing fee from the wholesaler. Because see, a wholesaler is not licensed, so you can't collect a commission from them. You can only collect commission from owner, buyer or seller, but you can collect a marketing fee, right? So, so I've got this whole thing diagrammed, and I do know some people that do it, but very few agents do, and it's because it does have a stigma. And a lot of brokers said, "Oh no, what we're against it." But one of our guys. I don't know if you ever remember a guy named Sean Murphy. He's used to be a KW too. There's several actually current KW folks here and former KW folks, but Sean Murphy interviewed me on his podcast, and right out of the gate, he said, "I want you to tell me about wholesaling." And I was like, "Really?" Because I didn't expect that from him. He said, "Oh yeah, we're all for it." And I said, "Okay, I'll unravel this for you." So there is a place for it, guys. And if you learn how to do it the right way, you can make it part of your overall model. Now, I'm not saying you've got to be like Erika. You just be yourself, do what's comfortable for you, but learn. You can go to YouTube and by golly, the videos are out there. They're free, and then also, keep up with Erika too. Watch her Facebook posts, see what she's doing, and you'll see the kind of things she's getting. And Erika, we still got time, but I can already tell you, I could probably have you back for 4 more classes, and that still wouldn't be enough.
I would love that. I love to help people hit the fast forward button and hopefully like avoid some of the hardships and obstacles I had while also making sure to like help them focus on what's going to make them the most money. Because that's what this
Yeah.
is about, right? Helping people and making money.
Well, let's do this. What I want to do is if we run the gamut here, there's people on here that really want to invest and haven't invested yet, and all the way up to seasoned veterans. But can we go back to the beginning, like talk about your first purchase and maybe the first mistake yeah, I mean, I still make mistakes. I mean, I'm cool with everything now. I've done so much, and I could if I wrote a book on the mistakes, it would be way bigger than the book on successes. But the successes always far outweigh the mistakes. But to take us down memory lane when you first got started? I want everybody here to really hear your story, because it's not always a bed of roses and glory and triumph. I mean, look at all this gray hair, guys. Good Lord. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to let Erika talk. So, because you guys want to hear her.
You are so right, though. It is not all roses and rainbows. So my first investment actually was right after taking your class. I think that probably had a lot to do with it. And I didn't want to rent again. And I didn't know, it was actually right before taking your class because I didn't quite have my real estate license. I took your class right after. So I didn't have my real estate license yet, but I knew that I didn't want to rent again. And we had saved like $30,000, which was a lot of money for some kids in their 20s, and really hard. And we saved that money, and we were like, okay. We found a property on Craigslist, an investor on Craigslist who actually buys foreclosures all over the country. He was doing room rent back 10 years ago. Like, this guy is super ahead of the curve. So we found him on Craigslist. Turns out they're not all scams. And we negotiated very low key this lease to purchase agreement where we would give him the $30,000 and we would pay down the mortgage payment every single month. And we would do so. And as soon as it was fully paid off, we could go record the home. And we had the deed. And I mean, super low key, as in no attorneys involved, just us and this investor off of Craigslist. So that was risky, but it worked out. So on that property, we buckled down hard because we realized, like, wow, we could get this property in our name. So we buckled down, and we actually ended up doubling down and even tripling down on mortgage payments some months. We put as much of our money as we could into the mortgage payment. And this also, you must know that when you're paying down the mortgage payment that quickly, they're calling you like crazy. Do you want to refinance? Do you want to refinance? And you're like, no, thank you. And you're also very intentional to be like, the rest towards principal, not interest, the rest towards principal. Right. So they try to get you. But we paid that down completely off within like 4.5, 5 years. And
awesome.
Within like 4 years, actually. And so once we paid that off, we went and recorded it. Actually reached out to one of our local attorneys that works with a lot of investors. And I'm like, how do I do this? And he's like, just go down to the courthouse. You're fine. We're like, okay. Yeah. We never even did a title search. What's cool is that property in 2018, we started the Hemp Hop, the cannabis company. By 2020, we were looking to purchase a $1.725 million industrial building with an SBA loan. as a cannabis company in year 2 with barely any financials. And my business partner didn't even have credit before we started the company. So we're like, how are we getting this? Well, they put a note on that property that we had fully paid off. And that's why we were able to obtain the SBA loan and move forward with buying the almost $2 million building. Had we not paid that property off completely, we wouldn't have had the leverage and that first property to be able to get the $2 million building. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge believer in like people wait to buy real estate. And I'm like, oh my God, no. Like the leverage it gets you from, especially over time, is phenomenal. And you can't buy the second one without buying the first one. So very
Yeah.
grateful for that opportunity. And he ends up being a really good friend of ours that I still have to this day. The guy that we bought it from off Craigslist.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is, and then Craigslist is still around today. It's definitely, you know, 20 years ago, even 10 years ago, it was probably better because it's there's so many people just flat out advertising. It's just like so many, even if they're even hidden ads. You think it's something like personal for you, and you get into it, and then it's just like a some kind of a upsell or bait and switch kind of a thing. But it still works. And for any Canadians, Craigslist is in Canada, but Kijiji is the Canadian equivalent to Craigslist. And same thing there. You can find properties there. You can sell properties there. We use it all the time when I have my brokerage. But the thing that really I want to emphasize here, and this goes back to discipline, guys. That Erika paid that thing off fast. I mean, for some odd years, that's incredible. Because what that does for you then is it allows you to a degree be your own banker. Now you've got something you can leverage. And real estate investing is all about leverage. You can buy a property with 20% down. You can buy a property with 5% down, 10% down, and to finance the rest. So if you really look at this, let's say Erica bought $100,000 property and she put down $30,000 and she had a note for the remaining 70, paid that off in 4 years, and the properties now go on up in value, right? It might not have doubled like it has things have in the last 5 years, but maybe it went up by 5% per year. Let's just say flat rate, it went up 20%. So now that building's worth 120,000. If he owns it outright, so you can borrow against that. Typically, bank, if you're going to do a cash out refi, they'll do anything from 65% to 80%. And you can take that money and buy other properties and finance them. But the reality is let's say Erica did not pay that off. She put down 30%, 30,000. And over 10 years, the property doubled in value. Okay. Now that property is worth 200,000. She put 30,000 in her own pocket. The additional 100, the part that other than what's financed, 200,000 minus 70 is 130. That means she turned 30,000 into capital into 130,000 in capital, right? I don't know anywhere else in the world you can do that, or any other commodity that you can do that. And that's even a conservative example. Plus, she's getting cash flow the whole time. Write this down. Remember this. In real estate investing, when you're looking for cash flow is one of the benefits. You also get depreciation. It's a phantom write-off. It doesn't cost you anything if the government lets you write off 3.41% per year on residential property. You get appreciation, it goes up in value, and you get equity pay down. That means your mortgage is being paid down over time, your note. And to me, there's a fifth way. The fifth way is you can always reconfigure it. You can refinance it. You can flat out sell it if you want to. You can exchange it into another property where you defer the capital gains tax. You can take it and have it say it's paid off and lend them. You can borrow against it at one rate, say 6%, and lend it out at 12% to people who don't want to go to banks. They want to take a private mortgage. There are so many things you can do. The extra strategies on these properties. I didn't even do all of them. I did a lot of them, but at the end of the day, I did not take full advantage of all the benefits of real estate investing. But just making money on the cash flow alone was good enough for me. Later on when I sold them and all that equity was in there, guys, I'm telling you, and I, just so you know this, people know I don't own anything right now. I sold everything a couple years back, but it's not that I don't like it. It got me where I am. It allowed me to build a foundation upon which I launched these other business models, like the Global Investor Agent Team, which I love. I mean, I'm just every day I get just as excited today as I did all those years ago. It's just amazing. Real estate, I've had some of the best investors on the planet tell me the same thing. Like, Gary, you know what? I'm not really enamored by real estate. I know it sounds crazy because I'm a real estate guru, but it allowed me to do all these other things, right? So, in any case, um, by the
And
way, guys, if
I'll give
you
you the
have a
hard
question,
numbers quick. I bought that thing at 180,000 on that lease to
uh-huh,
purchase.
yep,
By the time we got the note put on it for the SBA loan, it was worth 450,000. So Charlotte, North
wow,
Carolina at that time, you also never know when you're just going to get lucky, to be honest with you, by buying in the right
yep,
place at the right time. So that is such a cool journey that you've had, Gary. I just love hearing about all the cool stuff. And I love that I've been able to speak today to everybody. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
you're welcome. Hey guys, if you have questions, I mean, if you're new to the business, if you're new to real estate brokerage and or new to real estate investing, I mean, ask Erika questions. You've got somebody here right now who's actually she was where you are right now, so not too long ago, right? She's only 33 years old. And if you're wondering, actually, let me do this. Type in the chat box or do a hand raise. If you're just wondering what is even your next step, like what should I do first? Who wants to know that? I want to invest, Erika. I'm an agent. What should I do first? You know, and put that in. So PF wants to know that, and then Gabriella, we call her Gabby. She's down in South Texas. She has a question about 3 options for distressed houses. You know. Mhm.
Awesome. I love that. Okay, so I just dropped my information in the chat.
Mhm.
And then as far as the next step, the first step is going to be start underwriting properties in the market that you want to invest in. And I highly recommend that you start with the market that you're familiar with, the one that you're in, because that's where you are driving for dollars technically all day long. So
That means analyzing, guys. When investor says underwriting, you
oh,
need to
that's
do the
yes.
analysis, read the financial statement, and look at the spreadsheets we have on the website. Use them.
Yes, those spreadsheets. So like for so long, I was so just resistant to being like a spreadsheet girl. And then finally I was like, are you really going to be investing in real estate and not get to know spreadsheets? And I was like, go take a course if you have to, but like get it down. And so now, like as soon as I started actually using the spreadsheets and plugging in the numbers, okay, now what are the actual taxes going to be? What are the actual insurance costs going to be? Let me go find out real quick. Making sure to plug everything into that spreadsheet so I understood fully like how much net cash flow can I anticipate from this asset? And keeping in mind that all of that information, say it's a winner, great. You just have all the information to go ahead and give to a lender for a DSCR loan, and you're off to the races. You potentially have an investment there. But also, I'm a big advocate for seller financing, no money down. I've almost did it on a 30,000 square foot industrial building. I'm doing it now on a retail property. I love those opportunities. So you won't find those though until you get started underwriting and know what an opportunity looks like. Then you can start
Yep.
to apply it to different creative financing scenarios if you don't have the money and can't do a DSCR loan.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is when you get a property with no money down or owner financing, you know, your return is on a percentage basis infinite. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, what risk do you have?
The
So
IRR on my spreadsheet, I'm like, this can't be right. I'm
yeah,
going I'm like, I think that's accurate actually, because yeah, it's no risk. It's wonderful. And there's plenty of properties. You can find properties through tax records, through different software programs that are fully paid off. I love targeting properties that are fully paid off because that allows me to seller finance without a subject to the mortgage. I don't like to get into all of that. I try to stay out of that if possible. But I really love the seller financing. But you can't identify an opportunity until you've gone through and analyzed enough of them to know what is an opportunity in your market. So I think that's the first step is get familiar with those and like you said, Gary, there is nothing that builds rapport as a real estate agent than when a client brings you a property and you go, oh yeah, I've seen this. I know this property.
oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I've already analyzed this property. I've got numbers on it. There is nothing that builds rapport better than that. So you might as well, as an agent, be doing it anyway.
I agree. But not only that, but they're impressed that you actually have. So we have our own version of the CCIM Opportunity Evaluator. We created our own, and when you show people that, it instantaneously sets you apart from the crowd. I mean, literally, you're one out of 1,000. You're one in 1,000 agents when you can do that, and it doesn't take that many times to master that calculator. It just becomes second nature. And when people pick up on that, people intuitively figure out, well, this person knows how to analyze a property. You won't ever have a problem with loyalty. I can promise you that. They will not go back to their old neighbor's nephew who had his license and he's just trying to get a sale. You know how to analyze a property. You can read the financial statement. Anybody can learn it. I'm telling you. Like Erika said, she was not that wasn't her, you know, it wasn't she when she was little. I'm sure she wasn't saying, when I grow up, I want to analyze investment properties, you know.
Yeah, a spreadsheet person. So, but you get used to it very quick, and then you realize, like, wow, my wealth is on the line here. Like, my wealth is determined by this, of how good my skill set at this. I better get good at it.
Yep.
And one of the other things, three options for distressed properties. I've done tax foreclosures in Central Florida, and I actually picked them up where they didn't sell on the tax foreclosures, but actually went to what was called a list of lands. They have a variety of title issues, and you have track down heirs and all that good stuff, but they could be profitable. I picked one up for 800, flipped it for 24,000 after fixing title issues. So they
Wow.
can be wildly profitable. I
Yeah.
like tax delinquent properties because of that. In some counties, you
Hmm.
can literally just pull it right off the government website. I like pre-foreclosures because those are people that have a dire sense of urgency typically.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're not trying to sell the property. And like I said, come from contribution. I'm not here to make a quick check. Like, I'm here to help people and therefore make a lot of money doing so. So like, I come to them first, like, hey, I specialize with these types of situations. I had noticed, or you came across my desk. I just want to see if there's anything I can do to help. I have a variety of options. And
Yeah.
that's where, it comes in, like, that's where the wholesaling comes in. Those can be really helpful for pre-foreclosures. And the third type is the probates. So I kind of created
Hmm.
a system where I go through, I find probates that are about 6 to 9 months back, because that's about where I feel like it hasn't been referred out yet by the attorney to a real estate agent, but
Hmm.
it's enough through the process that I can reach out, and then I just skip trace on a variety of different websites, Redaris, Open Corporates, Corporation Wiki.
Yeah.
So those were the three types of options that I look at the most for like distressed pipelines.
Yeah. We have a tool in our team I bought probably 5 years ago now that allows our people on my team to figure out which properties are in pre-foreclosure, who are delinquent on property taxes, all kinds of valuable information. And there's so much you can do with them. It was made for investors, but we obviously use it for traditional production too, helping people buy and sell their own homes. I mean, who wants a good deal in this world? Is it just investors? No, everybody wants a good deal. Every home buyer, they want a good deal. So you can help them get that, and you can help somebody that's probably facing, imminent danger or something drastic doesn't happen very, very quickly. So that's why we have those other companies out there. We buy ugly houses. I want to buy your house for cash, and you can step in and actually be the person like Erica and come from contribution and help them solve a problem. Remember, they got a problem. You can help them solve it, right? So
Exactly. And they need
yeah,
help, but you're not going to help them. Like, I've talked to a wholesaler who I asked him, like, what was the most impactful, things you've ever been through within wholesaling? And he said it was the time when I didn't help, that somebody else offered her 10K more and then ended up not closing, and she ended up losing the house. And he's like, I should have
yeah,
fought more knowing my money was going through. And so he doesn't lose them anymore. So you're helping someone that really needs it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I tell you what, you can definitely make a difference, guys. I know gurus out there. I've had people come to me and say, "Well, this is what I was taught," and it's wrong the way they're doing it. So one of the tactics they'll use is they'll convince somebody that they don't need an agent, they can save on commission, and they're going to buy their house for cash within something like, whatever, 2 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. And really what they're doing is they're selling the contract. They're going to sign the contract to another person for a fee. So they're going to make 10,000 bucks and the other person is going to buy the house. Well, what happens is they get the property under contract first without having the buyer already lined up. Really good wholesalers always have a pool of buyers at the ready, already pre-approved that they need to be if they're getting a loan, or they know what they're basically filling orders. They know what these people want, and they go find it. That's how they're able to do it. Otherwise, they'll ask for an extension. Oh, we didn't make it in time. I need 30 more days. Well, in the meantime, this poor person needed to sell like yesterday. One of the most common things I see, and it drives me absolutely batty, you know? So,
Yeah. No, and I did 2 short sales in my career, and the last one I just closed on, I had to end up picking it up because the 2 agents that had it before me, like, just totally dropped the ball. And I'm like, "You can't
mhm,
drop the ball. She doesn't have time for that, though. Like, she's gonna get foreclosed on." And by the time
right.
I stepped in, she was already 3 months behind on the mortgage payment, and I was like, "Okay, all right." And so, like, it ended up
Yep.
being short sale slash, like, forbearance of the foreclosure. It took a year, so but
Yeah.
7 years on her credit where she can go buy a car. She can get a cell phone financed. Like, you gotta think about, even they can't get a cell phone finance potentially with foreclosure on their record,
Yep.
what that does their credit. So, it's really special when you can get somebody out of that bad situation and make money doing so.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's I want to ask you this. We still got about 6 minutes and some change here. And I always stay on Erica for a little bit after class anyways, just for people to sometimes are more they speak more freely when class is over. But um in now, do you still get involved with traditional sales, or are you all commercial now, or what's your business model look like?
Yes, so that transition from residential to commercial, um,
Mhm.
it was difficult. I'm not gonna lie, it's difficult,
Mhm.
and because you already have that adaptation of like when coming into real estate sales in general, where you're like, oh my
Mhm.
God, I don't get paid for 30 to 60 days, and then when you
Mhm.
switch over to commercial, it's like, oh my God, I don't get paid for 6 months. Wait
Mhm.
a minute. So it's very different, and so that adapting to that was really difficult. However, I found that I just don't like to be distracted. I like to do like I have a very high standard for my clients, and so I
Mhm.
found that when I'm trying to do residential over here and commercial over here, and truthfully, I'm getting so granular that like I only sell apartment complexes because
Yeah.
what's happening now is like my dog boarding facility, for instance. I'm so excited to be able to help a small business like come into the
Mhm.
community and help them buy a commercial property with an SBA loan. My apartment complex I'm about to get under contract is 36 times the check of that dog boarding facility. And that dog boarding facility has been 36 times the headache and stress that that apartment complex was.
Yeah.
So I think I found like when you have that skill set of being able to help people in distressed situations, be that investor mindset, it can be
Mhm.
really well suited for commercial if you feel like you're not being paid enough for your skill
Yeah.
sets. And I didn't feel like I was being paid enough for my skill sets doing residential short sales, pre-foreclosures. Not that I don't still do them when they happen, when they need help, but I
Mhm.
really want to focus my energy on what pays me for the skill set that I have. And I think that's apartment complexes. So I've been
Yeah.
excited on that journey, that's for sure. And I tell
Yep.
you, it started with me saying I specialize in large multifamily, and I had never sold anything larger than a duplex at that time.
Yeah.
Specialized in large multifamily. And next thing you know, I picked up an institutional investor within 2 weeks of changing my
Yep.
bio, saying I specialize. And now I have a 137 unit. I have a 50 to 60 unit in Winston that I'm about to get under contract. Another 200 unit in Florida that I'm about to list. So like I specialize in large multifamily all of a sudden. That manifestation is very, very real. You put
Yep.
it out there, you tell the universe what you want with clarity, and it definitely gives it back to you.
Absolutely. And right now there's so much opportunity. And one of the challenges is on multifamily. People don't realize this because we always hear there's a housing shortage, and there is across the country. It a year or two ago the range was between 4 and 7 million units. But before that even started years ago, going back to the last recession, a lot of builders started building large multifamily properties for rental purposes to be used as rentals. And so what's happening now when the market's kind of it's the volume in residential is at a 35-year low. It doesn't mean it's depressed, it's suppressed. The values are still there. It's just the number of transactions has dwindled. So in any case, what's happening is there's so many more people renting. I'll give an example. When I first taught class in California in 2015, the percentage of people renting in California was 36%. The last time I taught there in 2020, it was 46%. And guess what it is now after, through the pandemic years? It's
What?
it was like 56% last time I checked. And
50.
all the government programs, all the incentives, all the grants are towards building more multifamily rentals. And I'm thinking they're killing the American dream. That's why, guys, we have to actually make things happen. I mean, we're the people out in the field with the clients and the properties. I'm not trying to sound like I'm some kind of revolutionary, but who here thinks politicians knows what's better for in the world of real estate? Well, there's probably one, right? A couple, but I mean, I'm talking about Congress, House of Representatives, and senators. Who here would put their vote of confidence in them to understand the markets and what's really necessary versus someone like Erika? I wouldn't trust them. Not that I'm trying to be careful what I say, but I know there's an old joke about trusting politicians, but it's just their lack of knowledge. Half of them have never even been in business before. They
Yeah.
just went right into politics. I mean, what do they know about the real world? So we know what's happening, and there's solutions out there. Tiny homes. I'm seeing developments pop up, actually starting in Florida, Erica, where people are taking like 18 to 20 acres and getting the zoning to put in high density housing for seniors that are independent. Independent living, but instead of being in a building, they have their own little tiny home with nice patios in a community center. And they're putting like 400 to 500 people in this little 18 to 20 acre place. I think we're going to see more of that. That's the kind of stuff that's creative and actually solves the problem in a proactive way instead of just raising taxes, throwing more tax money at it. That's what politicians do. They never actually solve the problem. They simply enable it by throwing more money at it. Okay, I got off my soapbox. I said I wasn't going to
You're
do that.
saying
Yeah.
is so accurate too, because I know like it's easy to be like, oh well, that's not my market, that's over there in California. But California is a precursor market to a lot of the rest
Hmm.
of the country. So when you say
Yep.
something like 56% of the market is renters,
Mhm.
like that's interesting to hear because it's a precursor to what's like Charlotte, especially. We're a secondary city, really have become a primary city.
Oh yeah.
So like I look to California markets and I look to New York markets to see what's going to happen here next. So it's
Yeah.
very, very, we got to get out here and fight the good fight as real estate agents. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, one more question. When it comes to when you were a new agent, just starting the business, is there a couple of things you're like, gee, if I had known that when I first started, I would have progressed much more quickly. Like three rules, three things to just plain regular agent getting in the residential sales, you know, like what are some of the things that you would encourage people to do today,
The number one thing I would encourage is leverage right from the beginning. Leverage right from the beginning with the transaction coordinator. You need to know how to do your paperwork, but you don't need to be the person to do it. And I pay
Mhm.
$350 a file for my transaction coordinator. I would not do real estate sales without a transaction coordinator. This would be a totally different job for me. And so
Yeah.
it's not a job I would want to do. And so I think having a TC in place, having leverage right from the beginning, I would have done that from my first transaction on and just calculated it in as a cost of sale and or cost of doing business. So definitely like learning to leverage has been something that's been difficult for me. But the more I learned to leverage, the more I realized like I can operate a big business with also more peace. And I think that's really, really important in your quality of life while you're building something really big. The second thing would be make those calls. Don't be scared of the phone. I think that like with lead generation, we're really hard on ourselves. We go, like, oh my God, I'm not making my 20 calls a day. And it's like, well, perhaps you should be going to investor meetups instead. So my $18 million apartment complex, that was a seller that I met from an investor meetup locally in my area.
Hmm.
I can cold call like a beast for about 3 months before I get burnt out and don't want to do it anymore. I can build a business off of cold calling in the beginning, but then I got to figure out what else I'm doing that matches my personality and actually fits for me. So I think too often agents fight against the grain on like finding their lead gen that's good for them and their business. And they're too often like, I should be door knocking and I should be doing this. Well, no, like you got to find what you like and what you're really good at and build your whole business off just that. So,
Yeah.
I think from the beginning, I would have been a little less hard on myself and been a little bit more focused on the stuff that I like, that I want to do long term. Um,
Yeah.
and number three is goals, writing them down. Like there's a
Yeah.
study, a Harvard study that shows God, I wish I could remember what it is. It's a Harvard study though, and it follows a class all the way
Yeah.
from their college like class or their high school all the way to their death. And it's one of the
Hmm.
longest running studies that Harvard did. And what it shows is the people that had goals, like their net worth was directly equivalent to them having goals. The people that wrote those goals down consistently over time, their net worth was directly equivalent to that. And like the one guy in the class that consistently wrote his goals down for his entire life, he was the one person in the class that was a billionaire. So I think your
Yeah.
net worth is directly correlated to not just having goals, but writing them down and writing them down consistently. Like as I
Yeah.
look up, my goals are actually right here on my wall in front of me, because it's easy to get distracted as an agent and do busy work just to feel like you're busy. But I look up and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, did I actually hit the benchmarks for myself for the week? Like the little task that
Yeah.
I need to do, did I actually hit that to hit the, 33 million in volume for the year?
Yeah.
So I think
And
those are really important things.
that study, by the way, I remember it well. It was of when they did this, when they look at the results, the people that had consistently determined, had, like you said, had written down goals were 97% of the time on person for person had a greater net worth than the people that did not write
Yeah.
goals. 97%, that's a startling statistic, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one more, which is your sphere, guys, your database, getting all your contacts on your CRM, whatever it is. Doesn't matter if it's KV Core, Top Producer, any of them. Put them in there so you can make use of automated contact. You need to stay in contact with your sphere because there is nothing worse than you finding out one of your old neighbors just sold their house, and you could have easily stayed in contact with them by sending them automated happy birthday cards, Merry Christmas, whatever, or just calling them up. You know, hey, how understand John just graduated from high school. Where is he going to college? Be yourself, have a normal conversation. I mean, have you ever had that experience, Erica, where somebody you found out, gee, I blew it because I didn't stay in contact with that person, and you know,
That one stings for sure. And I will
yeah.
say on the flip side of that, I think sometimes we don't call them because we haven't stayed in contact and we're like almost embarrassed or ashamed. And every single
Mhm.
time that I've reconnected with clients that I've let contact go, they are so happy to hear from me. It's never
Mhm.
a, where have you been? You haven't called me. It's like a, oh my God, it's great to hear from you. And we reconnect. So like I will say,
Yeah.
like, don't fear if you haven't done it in a while, just jump back in there. Like they'll be thrilled to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Well, listen, guys, it's 5 after 8. So if you have questions, please type them in on Erica's. We, graciously has stayed on for us. And I will stay on if you guys do have questions related to a transaction, client, whatever. And Erica, you're welcome to stay on too. It's just kind of open mic. Sometimes it's nobody has questions. Sometimes it's a half hour. You just never know. So,
Hey,
but if you
Gary,
guys
I
could,
typed my question in a little bit
I
ago.
was gonna say, Lisa, I see your question. So you're doing seller carries a lot. You're doing it with single family, with residential?
No, most of the time they are rural property or cannabis farms.
Ah, how ironic. Those are
Mhm.
cool. I love that. Okay, so I
there it is.
find that that's gonna be a little different, right? Because I always think of my avatar. Who is it? Like, who is this person I'm trying to get this deal done with? And who are they and how do they operate? Most people got into cannabis to get rich quick. Hello, I was definitely one of them. So I think that most of the time, yeah, you'll probably experience like to be honest with you, I was like, hey, other cannabis companies, I want to help you buy commercial real estate so you're stable. And then I realized I was doing business with like mostly drug dealers that somehow were able to get business licenses. And I was like, never mind, I'm not going to do this anymore. So like those are people that typically are going to be a little bit more entitled. What I found with the seller financing is like it's the properties that are like fully paid off typically. And what I really find is it's the heirs to the property that now have it. So it's whenever it's an heir to a property that has it. So for instance, the 30,000 square foot building, we were looking at seller financing that for the cannabis company. And the guy was fourth generation to the building. And we got the opportunity to kind of like walk around with him at one point, even though it was listed with some brokers. And he just wanted to walk his dog all day. He did not care about this building. He did not care about the business in the building. Like he just wanted to walk his big, pretty white dog. He did not want this stuff. And like we determined, like, okay, like he's really disconnected from this whole thing. And the brokers, they were not business brokers. So while we put in an offer for seller financing, no money down at a 0% interest rate, he wanted to actually take it. Like he was ready to move forward with it. The only reason he couldn't is because he still had the business operating in the building. My plan is I could have helped him seller finance the business to the main owner operator to like, or to not to the main operator. He wasn't an owner yet, but there was an operator that was the main operator that I felt like we could have seller financed to him. However, it was a business that operated and produced parts for large commercial washers and dryers. Moving a business out of a building like that had been there for 50, 60 years, oh, that was going to be a doozy. So like it was a great opportunity, but it came with a lot. I'm still actually following up on that 2 years later. So it's still not even closed out or, yet. I'm still working on it. It's been a very long-term transaction. I had to wait till it expired and the brokers didn't have it anymore. And now I've been able to work on it. The one I currently have, it was tragic. His brother killed his wife, and then killed himself. The father who owned the retail property blamed himself a lot. And from like 2018 or from 2015 to 2018, it just went downhill because the father blamed himself. And so the father actually ended up killing himself within the property in the convenience store. So like the brother now, this surviving brother, obviously this is a property he doesn't even want to drive by it. Like it has horrible memories attached to it. So it's fully paid off. And we've been very transparent with him. We've been like, look, we know we told you we could offer this, but we've gotten all the construction estimates now, and we're not going to be able to do a cash out refinance and actually get it done unless we buy it for this. He's like, I don't care what, he's already given us all the keys. He's like, we're picking up the checks for him from the tenants right now because he doesn't even want to go to the property. Like he's so tapped out on it. So like there's a lot of that out there, and especially in the commercial world, tons of that's fully paid off. They are heirs to the property. God, it's not an asset to them, it's a liability. And it's hard to watch people go through like that with real estate that you can come in, do a value add to it, and boom, that baby is running. And now the community has this asset, that they can come to, and it just changes everything for everyone. So those situations, those are what I look for mostly on the seller financing, is those like fully paid off, heirs to the property. Probate, I go through the tax delinquency and the probates to find those as well sometimes. And it's just, again, about coming from contribution. Like with him, the whole time, I'm like, if you want me to list it right now, still, this is the price still I can list it at. He's like, I don't care. He's like, I just want to close with you, and I don't care what price we close at. And so I'm trying to, obviously, as a ethical agent, as a fiduciary first, trying to get him the most money I possibly can, given the construction estimates, to make sure this is a true win-win for all of us.
Yeah.
I hope that answers it.
Perfect. Thank you. I just got the big picture in my head. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And also, Lisa, remember, there's a couple lenders we've had in either class or on the podcast that will take on opportunities like this. So it's it's not a cash deal because it's technically a loan, but and they're going to charge a higher rate to the buyer, but the buyer can finance 40, 50%, and then get the owner to finance the other 50 to 60%. So he has like a no money down deal. One of them was the guy in Michigan. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I was going to say what we're doing we had a private capital partner for the construction. He had other things going on, so he had to back out. So we're actually partnering with the GC. We called the GC on it, and we were like, hey, you said something about being the hard money lender. He's like, yes, I've been waiting for you to call. So we're actually going to do a general contractor agreement and then a hard money or a private money lending agreement with our general contractor. So we've done business with him before. He's trustworthy. I think that could be one of the best situations, but I'll report back.
Yeah. Yep. Great question. Okay, guys. Well, if there's nothing more, I appreciate you being on tonight. I will be up in Canada for the rest of the week, flying back on Saturday. And then next week we're back to business as usual. We're going to start the daily huddle again. I had Sugar redo the Zoom invite, so you have to register for it. It just makes it easier. I saw in the email that she put 11 o'clock by accident, although the registration still says 11:30. So I told her, please send out a corrective email on that one. But trying to think if there's anything else I can tell you guys. If you do need me while I'm up here, just call, text, email, just like normal. There's just no schedule. There's no one-on-one calls, but if you get stuck on something, let me know. And Erika, thanks again for doing this. It's so awesome for you to do that. That's for me. It's fun because I know you and I can remember that class. I remember you in class asking questions, taking notes. Because I got to tell you, I've never seen anybody that interested in. I mean, it feels good as a teacher. I mean, when somebody's taking questions and asking questions and taking notes, that's an awesome feeling. You can't see it on Zoom. You can see the questions coming in, but
It was
um,
life changing,
look at
Gary.
TF.
Thank
There you
you.
go.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll tell Nancy at dinner tonight you said hello, and I'm sure she would say hello too. And they didn't come up for the sightseeing part; they're coming up for the meeting. And guys, I'm going to bring back a lot of ideas. Where the part of this meeting is, everybody shares their best stuff to help each other out because we're in different brokerages, different parts of the U.S. and Canada. So I'm going to bring back a treasure chest of good ideas for you. So. All right, you guys take care of yourselves. God bless you and your loved ones, and I'll see you next Monday night. If I don't speak to you beforehand, and thanks again, Erika, for doing this. I'd love to have you back again. We'll figure that out. We're scheduled into July now, but I'll figure that out. So,
Awesome. I appreciate you so much. Thank you, Gary,
yeah.
and safe travels and have fun while you're there.
And if I can do anything for you, please let me know.
Absolutely. We're definitely going to keep in contact. We got some investment opportunities to do together. I know it in the future.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of Monday Night Live. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.